others have not. So first thing we're going to do is take you through some enrollment numbers. Then we're going to tell you a little bit about some possibility facility needs that we have going. And the facility needs are going to be kind of twofold. Number one, they're going to be to accommodate the growth. And number two, even though we've been passing bond issues over and over again here, and it seems like every 2 or 4 years, we do have some buildings that are getting older, and we need to do some maintenance or upkeep on those. So here are the numbers. Right now we have in the yellow, we have at the elementary 1,400, but way down here is the building. 530 in the elementary at Bennington Elementary, 401 at Heritage, and 470 at Pine Creek. If we project that out the next year, 590 at Bennington Elementary, 435 and 516 respectively. Now, has Bennington Elementary had 590 kids before? Yes, it has. In 2004, before we moved up here, we were at 598. The difference is that we had 5 portables to help accommodate that. So, we do have had it there, but there's a big drastic change when you take out those 5 portables. We look forward. You can see the numbers, and I'm just going to go down here to the bottom. So you have right now a 2,600 student population. We grow at about 275 a year, if you're looking at that, or down there about 11%, 10.82. If we project that out, we're looking here at 2023-24, we're looking at an 1,155 student high school, but we're also looking at a 4,400 student district. Now, what does a 4,400 student district look like? Fremont, South Sioux City, Columbus, right now somewhere around Gretna. So that gives you an idea of 5 to 6 years out what the district is projected to be. Now, another way to look at the enrollment is what one of our board members put together in kind of a stoplight. Green's good, yellow's caution, red is not so good, or you need new buildings. So if you look at the elementary, next year we're going to be over capacity, certainly Bennington Elementary, to a certain extent Pine Creek. You look at the middle school, it's okay. You look at the high school, it's okay. But then you look down to 2019-20, the high school is slightly over. This is capacity of 750. So 762 is not terrible. Last year, you remember when we had 7 through 12 here, we had about 875. So we can accommodate it, but it does get to a squeeze. You can see 886 in 2020-21. So you're going to need something in that regard. Certainly you need something in the elementary. Take a breakdown even farther. This is the elementary K-5. So next year, 2018-19, we project 288 in kindergarten, 227 in 5th grade. All right? There's still a little bit of separation as the district continues to grow. But if you look over here, you've got 386 in kindergarten and 364 in 5th grade. Not as much separation anymore, about the 360 to 380 range all the way through. Now you look at middle school, you still have a separation when you get out here, but look at the middle school right now. Now you're starting to get numbers of 230 to 215 all the way through there. And as that continues to grow, that grows steady as well. But look at the high school, all right? Next year, you have a graduating class of 141, but you enter a class of 218. Those are in 8th grade right now, moving over, right? And if you look at this number, you're going to add 100 to 120 each year. So the high school really starts to see the pressure of growth as it moves forward in the next 5 years. That was the middle school 3 to 4 years ago. That was the elementary, 9 to 5 years ago. The high school is going to see that pressure. Before we talk about any bond issue, we talk about what's it going to cost you, because that's the first question people have. In order to determine what it's going to cost you, you have to look at history. History and valuation in your home and personal property, most commonly the car, all right? As that continues to grow in this area, there's two factors that help that growth. One is the county assessor. He looks at the house or the property and maybe adjusts it up or down, most of the time up, right? And the other is new property coming on board. Over the last 10 years, we've averaged almost 7.9%. In the previous 5 years, when the economy was down, still above 7. And the last 5 years, above 8. That 8% is important when you get down here. So if we were to go out and issue bonds of about 30 million, and it was 6% growth. Why do I say 6? We've never had that, but the economy could turn. People will say, you can't rely on history because in my head, something's going to change. You can't continue to grow this way. So we always forecast a little bit lower. 30 million at 6%, no levy increase. Now, I do not say no tax increase, because there are multiple pieces of your property taxes. Not only is it the school, and that's one of the largest, if not the largest, but it's the SID or the city, and then you have county library, you have rural fire department, you have anywhere from 12 to 15 different parts to that property tax. So if the county assessor or any one of those entities raises the levy or the assessment on your home, taxes are going to go up, even though we would say the levy from the school would not. Now, if we go 40 million at 8% growth, still no levy increase. If we went 50 million at 8% growth, it would be a 4-cent levy increase. 4 cents on $100,000 of your property is $40 per year. So if you take a $200,000 home, you're looking at $80 more per year in that regard. That explains a little bit of the levy. Why do we have the growth? Well, we're looking at a corridor about 1 mile wide, 2 miles long in this area. So we blow it up, we put it over here. Pine Creek, Highland Ridge, Summerhill Farm. You've seen dirt move there. You see a lot of empty lots and power and roads there. And Pine Creek is somewhere around 80% capacity at this point in time. If we were to look at Pine Creek and take that as a history, right now Pine Creek has 0.54 elementary students, K-5, per household. Right? 0.54 per household. So just a little bit above the waistline. If you take that and put Summerhill Farms and Highland Hills in there, you're going to get 690 elementary students at its peak. Right? And I say at its peak, and I want to be clear about that, because if I come up here to, the city, Bennington Park, right here, so take 156th Street, go west. Bennington Park in 2004 had 2 elementary students to 1 secondary student, middle school and high school. Right? Today, Bennington Park is reverse of that. 2 secondary students to 1 elementary student. So neighborhoods mature, neighborhoods change. Pine Creek will do the same at some point in time. If we have 690, you had me going there, Shelley.
Sorry.
I'm just like the dog, I was following right after you. So stay still, would you? Okay. If we have the peak at Pine Creek, Summerhill Farms, and Highland Ridge, we cannot accommodate all the elementary students in just Pine Creek. And that's a very small attendance center. But it remains to be seen if all 3 of those neighborhoods would be at its peak for elementary at one point in time or at the same time. So keep that in mind as you start to talk about growth in a neighborhood, elementary attendance centers, things of that nature. Now, Greg has a list that has more detail than this, but these are about 20 to 22 items that the Board of Education this past summer has identified as some needs in the district. The total of that list, front and back, is over $80 million. Keep in mind, I never showed you anything in the bond that said $80 million. The top piece was $50 million. So there has to be some priorities. If you look at the list, and the front side of that with the heading has a rank in a number, that's the construction number, and the ranking goes in order. Who did the ranking? the administration, and the board members this past summer. Only 20 people, not the community. But I can tell you the top 5 on that list are something that are needed and needed quickly, right? The rest of that list, there are needs. It's variable depending on who you talk to if they're needed next year or in the next 2 years. So let's go through some of those. First off, let's go through what the last bond issue did. The last bond issue was $38.5 million. It did 5 things. Biggest piece of that, $29 million, was the middle school. Middle school, by the way, is a week away from being completely done. They are practicing after school in the gym, and next week we'll be doing contests and concerts over there. Is that correct, Ray? We do too. Okay? And that was this piece here. The blue was done on time. Blue was in there and we had kids in there. The auxiliary gym, beautiful addition, very functional. That was the other big piece. The 3 others was land, a warehouse, which I'll show you in a little bit, and a little bit of remodeling at Bennington Elementary. That encompassed $38.5 million. So, what are we looking at right away? Well, we're looking at an elementary at anchor point. And I showed you that in that highlighted 2-mile by 1-mile rectangle. We have a lot of growth in that area. We have land. The developer is working very closely with us. So anchor point, the light blue is just like Heritage. Okay? The light blue is just like Heritage. There are 2 additions that the board is contemplating adding to that. Number 1 is additional classroom space. So taking a building that's 21 classrooms and making it 25 classrooms. That would obviously raise the capacity of the building. The only concern with that is the programming. Once you go past 24, when you have the specials, and what I'm talking about is counseling, music, PE, art. Once you go past 24 in those, then you need another teacher, the way we program it today. So if we were to increase that to 25, or we take the music room and the art room away as we do in Pine Creek and Heritage and the others, and we go to 28 or 29, then you lose the efficiency of staff. You lose the efficiency of people. So there's a concern with that. The positive is, you can't build it any cheaper than the first time around, right? The negative is the programming and the building itself becomes a little bigger. This is a preschool, and I'll show you some numbers in a little bit. Why? Preschool attached away from everything else. It has to, by state law, by code, has to have its own separate entrance, has to have its own separate playground, right? And I'll show you some things going along with it. That, as you see, is over 18 million, and then the preschool addition is 1.1 or 1.4, somewhere in there. This is the high school. You saw the numbers. We're going to have to add on to the high school. The auxiliary gym is right here with the weight facilities, the bleachers and everything, locker rooms. This is where we would add on 16 classrooms. What does 16 classrooms look like? You're going to count, you're going to say, I only see 8, right? It's a 2-story. So there are 2 classrooms underneath that for 16. 16, architecturally, they say 25 kids per room. So that would be about 400 more students. Take 750 up to 1150. You remember the map, remember the enrollment projections, say 23, 24, 1155. So that brings you up to that. What could you put in this whole entire building before you have to build a second high school? Somewhere around 1,200 to 1,250 before you have to build a second high school. That's pretty crowded at that point in time. So there's a list. You have that in front of you. One of the things that it says there is land for a second high school. It's down on the list, but it is there. All right? We're looking at this, and Mr. Lamberty, Dr. Blumenkamp met with the architects today. There are several parts of this building, in fact, this area here, that might be repurposed. right? Administrative offices, we have to look at that, and we have to see if we can accommodate more administration, more counseling, office space of that nature. So we have to look at this campus and get it to that 1,200 level and all the programming that goes with it. This is the parking lot. You saw how tight that situation was. If you think of where you're at right here, the 7th and 8th grade wing, the auditorium. In between the auditorium and the 7th and 8th grade wing, those are the 16 classrooms. It's a very tight corner. You need parking. This was done in 3 colors because it could be done in 3 phases. We're suggesting it be done in 1 phase with the bond issue. The 3 phases broke it down so that it could be done in the general fund if needed, and parking is needed. But parking is also needed if you're going to build in that corner. You need somewhere for the construction crew to stage and then move around, because you can't shut either one of those roads down while you're doing that construction. That's 270 stalls. This takes you to Bennington Elementary. Bennington Elementary, because of 156th Street, and over here is Bennington Road. This is the district office right there. Up in here is the administration for the elementary. Gets you somewhat oriented. So, north, south, east, west. Good news on this. 156th Street is going to have some turn lanes, so it creates a little more flow. Bad news is they need to take land away from the parking lots to do so. Good news, they have a federal grant to do this road and a little bit of Bennington Road. It's an 80-20 split. State and federal pay 80% of it, 20% is either paid by the city, or in this case, the state has agreed to pay for these 3 parts of the parking lot. So 80% by Fed and state, 20% by the district. The district will have to pay for this bus loop on the back side. These are where the portables used to be. This is the playground. This is Hickey Field outfield. And I'll show you a Google map of that pretty soon. And we have to pay for this along Bennington Road. But it knocks down a price that's on that list from about 1.1 million to about half. And so, one way or the other, we're going to have to do this. Now, the projection is they're going to do utilities in about 2020 and the road itself in 2021. That's the good news. The bad news is you cannot do this in 2 months when school is out. And so they project Bennington Road can be done in 2 months. And so we can still have the flow from the high school, middle school to that corner and go south. But 156th Street right here is going to take longer. And so there may be some congestion for the first couple of months of school. 2021. So we're out a ways before we have that problem. This is land. This is north of Stratford Park. This is 168th Street. This is Military Corner. This is Rachel Stone Road, or the north side of Stratford Park. Elementary space right here, middle school space right here. The last bond issue had money for land. This piece of property is paid for, right, out of the last bond issue. We need monies for this piece of property. We want a developer to come in here and help at this point in time. So it's rare because everybody's here, they all want to shut the doors and keep everybody out, right? But we need a developer to help on this side over here so that he can or she can help with the cost of this road. If the developer doesn't come in time, then the district has to pay for that road and then wait for a developer to rebate or reimburse down the road. So, it's the first time we have a campus-like atmosphere. One could say that the middle school and high school are campus-like now, but you have this really busy road going as Bennington Road in between them, right? So, we talked about preschool. Here's really 3 parts to preschool that I want you to get. Number 1 and 2 are the current realities. We have 27 kids, 3 and 4-year-olds. Half of them come in the morning, the other half come in the afternoon. They are 6 to 7 students with special needs in each one of those classes, matched with a role model that does not have the special needs. That is state requirement. Here is what we need. We have 12 additional students that we serve somewhere else that really should be at the Bennington Elementary Pine Creek. And we have 45 role models on the list that all want to be a part of that. Okay? And then you can see down here, the reality is you do preschool, it's a cost savings in the end. Preschool is not paid for out of state funding. Preschool is all locally funded, and you can charge a rate for the role models to be a part of that, role models only. All right? So, as you can see right there, we have one classroom right now, but we need more than one classroom. The addition to Anchor Point, as I showed you earlier, has 4 preschool classroom additions. So we can grow not only in our need for what we're doing right now, but possibly expand the program in early childhood education. Okay? This is Pine Creek, and I'm going to show you Pine Creek, and I'm going to show you Heritage. So Pine Creek, you can add 4 classrooms to the east. The difference in Pine Creek and Heritage is right here, number 2. Heritage has a little bigger commons area, a little bigger lunchroom that can accommodate more kids than what Pine Creek has. In all said, there's a 3,000 square foot difference, 64,000 square feet, and Heritage has 67,000 square foot, just because of that bend. Here is Bennington Elementary. Now, a couple of things here. This is the district office. This is the it used to be the cafeteria. Before that, it used to be the gym. Right now, it's 3 kindergarten rooms. Okay? This is 156th Street, Bennington Road. But I need to point you over there. That's the Bennington Elementary Stadium. Until 2008, before we came up here, football games, track meets, all were down there. That is a 7-lane track, and it has not been touched in terms of repair for over 15 years. So we need to do a repair on that track, because not only is it Bennington Elementary's track, it really is a community track, because you'll see bikes on it, you'll see people walking on it all times of the day. Youth football, youth soccer, youth baseball and softball all use the complex at some point in time. So what we're proposing is to refurbish the track. We have a restroom right down here, right by Bennington Road. Hasn't been used for 10 years. Why is a restroom down there, you say? It's in the outfield. It's not close to the football field. Before 1970, this was the football field for Bennington Public Schools. 30-some years ago, it made sense to have the restroom next to the football field. No longer. But there is a sewer line that runs up to this residential area here. So we are proposing moving this restroom, taking it away, taking this concession stand and remodeling it, probably on the lower end, maybe tin, not necessarily cement or block, and putting restrooms in there. And that would be utilized by everybody in the community, not just the school district. Now, Greg would tell you that this field holds water better than the stadium field. And last spring, we played 2 weeks of soccer down there. This fall, we played close to 2 weeks of football down there. And so, not only is it used for youth, but we would use it. Here's another reality. 140 to 160, 180, somewhere in there, middle school kids are going to go out for track. Couple that with 55 to 80 high school kids out for track. Currently, the high school kids come a little bit later than the middle school kids for track practice. You push on top of that 35 to 50 girls soccer, 35 to 50 boys soccer, and now you look at the stadium field, and that is heavily used, overused. It'd be nice if we could come down here for track practice, for soccer, for some other things while the other stadium is being used. Okay? The question is, do you put turf on the current field? You can do that, and there is a price for that on there, but you still have the problem with all of those students using one facility at one time. So, you still need to refurbish this to spread out that middle school, high school activity schedule. We also look at this building, and there's some refurbishing that goes along with Bennington Elementary. Almost every bond issue. The roof on the gym over here, the last time the roof was redone on that gym was 1986. 31-year roof is really pretty good. I challenge you to find many homes with a 31-year-old roof. So, we can either wait for that to cave in, or we can probably redo it at some point in time quickly so that we can get a new roof over the gym. Okay? Haven't had any leaks there at this point in time, but I think after 30 years you might be on a hope and a prayer at certain times. This is the district office. Now, this is the 1940 building, as I just described. That used to be the gym, then the cafeteria, and now it's 3 kindergarten rooms. If we were, and this is what people don't want to hear. When you have a district of 4,000 students, which you're going to have in 5 to 7 years, go to Columbus, go to Gretna, go to South Sioux City, go to Fremont, and see what their district administration office looks like. It's going to be more than a 2-story, about 7,000 square foot area. It's going to be something that big. Not only is it a district office, now, Dr. Haack has a room here. It's a really big room, okay? I'm not building a castle here, all right? If we were to go out in a bond issue and say, build a brand new district office overlooking the lake over here, that's not going to go. Nobody's going to build or do something for district administration. It just doesn't happen. Plus, if you try to move the district office, the Starship right here, out of Bennington City, it's right in the heart of the district. It makes sense to keep it here, but you have to remodel it to accommodate a bigger district. That's why we're saying take this building, demolish it, and in its footprint, put a bigger building, a 2-story, just like this 2-story, and you still have it in the heart of the district. But that's a really tough sell, just like really tough sell for AstroTurf. Everybody's going to build a new elementary because we need it, in addition to the high school because we need it. You drive on the parking lot, you know we need parking. All of those things. We're going to have more land. Those things make sense. But when you start to get into a district office, it's like, can't we do something else? Because we really need the other.
What happens to the 3 classrooms then that you lose?
They would get repurposed, and we would redo the attendance boundaries. Okay? So it would not accommodate or have a big capacity. Good question. This is the warehouse. We got this right here currently. We have the athletic storage over here. So we would add to that. And it makes sense. Why do you need a warehouse? Okay? Think of it this way. You have 300 employees for Bennington Public Schools at this point in time. You have 2,600 customers. Tell me a business with 300 employees and 2,600 customers, soon to be 4,000 customers, that doesn't have a central distribution position. That's what that warehouse is going to be. It is already. This is Heritage Elementary. Instead of down here like Pine Creek adding on, you go over here in the backside and add on. So it's just a little different. Again, you bent this a little bit and you grew this a little bit. So it's 3,000 square foot bigger than Pine Creek.
Is Heritage, Heritage is under enrolled based on the other 2 elementaries?
Yes.
Bigger?
And I'll tell you why. Okay, good question. When I go to this east central zone, that was Heritage. Okay? Heritage, the subdivision, was supposed to be 1,000 homes. And then they sold 80% of it to the all-white Prairie. So the best laid plans of the superintendent went right out the window in that attendance center because this is going to be Prairie. So when we do a fourth elementary, we're going to have to redistribute subdivisions, redo boundaries for the 4 elementaries. The board doesn't want to do that now, even though Bennington Elementary is over capacity and Heritage is a little bit under, because disrupting the family for 1 year to do that probably doesn't make much sense. Okay? So, what are these yellow things? Those are additional schools which you probably need to look out in the future and buy land for, not as soon as possible, but in the future or sometime near. Second high school, right here. So that doesn't help you very much, but if you go down Straight Street, you get your visors on, you get right to the hill and you go zoom down the hill by 144th. Now you're in the flat. You go across the bridge, and on the south side you have the view. And those 3 or 1, depending on how they divide it out. On the north side would be where this piece of property is. Now, you go a little farther and you get Davis Middle School, You get the old county landfill. On the top of that hill is a projected middle school at some point in time. You go across the highway and you go up here, projected elementary. You got more elementaries down over in there. When all said and done, this district is 8,000 students. And somebody asked me the other day, when's that going to happen? 2 to 3 decades down the road, okay? 8,000 students, 10 to 12 elementaries, the 4 to 6 middle schools, 2 high schools. Okay? 8,000, what does that look like? Well, Elkhorn Public Schools last year was 8,000 students. And it's about 8,600 at this point in time. Elkhorn Public Schools is projected to go up to 18,000 students. Gretna Public Schools is projected to go to 15,000 students. All right? So that gives you an idea of what you have here.
And
So,
the new OPS high school will...
the new OPS high school is projected to go right in this corner. And I'm asked Kurt, will that have any effect on Bennington Public Schools? It could. It could in terms of option enrollment, as see what programming goes in that high school. But the boundaries are frozen. So OPS is not going to come in and take over Pine Creek. The boundaries are frozen. The only way that that can happen is both school districts agree to either, one, get money, which is what Papillion has done with Springfield Platteview. Papillion has taken some of Springfield Plattview's land and given them a set dollar amount, like 10 years worth of revenue down the road. Or you swap land. Districts agree to trade land that's of equal value because it makes sense or because it straightens out a line. Okay? Keep in mind, why is this so jagged? It's because of farm ground over the years. Way back, 1800s, when we had one-room schoolhouses, Douglas County alone had 67 different schools. Today, that's down to 5 schools. And so, if I look up in here with Washington County, that was in 1999 a one-room schoolhouse with a school in the town of Washington. In 1987, the old Sunny Hill farms were down here. That was a one-room schoolhouse. And in fact, where we're building the land on Anchor Point, the Anchor Point subdivision had 1 acre of land, which was the old Class 1 school, that was deeded to Bennington. And we actually swapped a couple acres for this elementary site for that 1 acre. Right? That was 1987. So in my life, it wasn't that long ago, right, that we had some Class 1 schools, one-room schoolhouses in this area. I'm done. Any questions at this point in time?
Is Highland Hills a yes?
Highland Hills is not. Highland Hills, right next to Pine Creek, is, excuse me. It is right in this area right here. So, half a mile either side of 168, all the way down to Fort, is, and that's that old Class 1 of Sunnydale or Sunny Hill.
So on Pine Creek, it will not be divvied up into half OPS, except half Pine Creek.
That's a tricky question, because Phase 3 of Pine Creek is part of OPS. So there are approximately 100 to 150 homes that are in OPS, Phase 3. But Phase 1 and 2 of Pine Creek, about 500 homes are in Bennington. And it's going to stay that way, unless two boards decide different.
What's the proposed time of adoption?
Very good question. Monday's board meeting, the board has to okay the architects to move forward with Anchor Point. It's a 5-month design, okay? 50 days before we go out to a bond vote, you have to apply to the county election commissioner. We want to do it March 13th. If we're going to get Anchor Point Elementary done by the start of 2019, we have to have a lot of things go for us. The architects have to be done by March. We have to be the contractor selected no later than April 1, and we have to have footings starting sometime in June of 2018. If we do that, that follows the pattern of Heritage, and Heritage opened up a year later. So, 50 days before March 13th is January 22nd. We have a board meeting January 8th. It'll be my recommendation to the board that that's when they pass the resolution, and that's when the campaigning starts to move for 2 months till we get that out. Now keep in mind, it will be a mail-in ballot in all likelihood, so the ballots reach your mailbox 20 days before March 13th. Okay? So you have about a 6-week window of campaigning, and then those last 2 to 3 weeks are a different type of campaign that says, have you turned in your ballot? Other questions, yeah?
For the district office, are you planning on taking down the 1940s building?
We are not.
Okay.
The 1940s building was, and a good question, it was built with the same thing Obama did with infrastructure and pumping money into the economy. So did Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Okay, FDR did the same thing coming out of the Depression. And that's where that money came for. If I was going to be somewhere in an F5 tornado, that would be one of the locations I would be, because it is a very sturdy building. And that is the Flagship. And you're not going to tear down the Flagship to put up something new. People aren't going to go for that. So we're going to remodel that.
Do you expect to select different contractors next time around so that the end result of time might be better?
It's certainly something we will look at. Okay? It's difficult to exclude like a general contractor because you want that competition. Okay? Because if you start picking everybody to dance with and you get it down to 2, well, that kind of limits it. So probably not the general, but there might be a few subs. And if that general was to win, there would certainly be some discussion and maybe even some written contracts to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Liquidated damages is one way to do that. But most of the time people say if you put liquidated damages in a contract, whether the contractor is going to use them or not, they price that in. So we've never had what we've had happen at the middle school before, whether you call that lucky or not, but middle school is the first one that's been delayed in that.
Next bond issue would only have Anchor Point, or?
No. The top 5 on that list equal about 29 million. From what I've heard from the board at this point in time, they are looking at a range anywhere from 32 to 38 million worth of projects. They have yet to narrow down that number. They're going to start that on Monday. They have a special meeting the following Monday to narrow that down. So, could it be HVAC at Bennington Elementary, security at Bennington Elementary and Pine Creek? Could it be turf? Could it be some of those other things? It could. But the top 5 are something that are pretty solid and needed at this point in time. Any other questions? Okay, the last thing is, is any of this a secret? And it is not. You can share that, you can make photocopies of that list. Again, the board meeting Monday, special meeting the following Monday, probably a resolution January 8th. If you have input, we'll certainly share that with Greg or anybody connected to the school. They'll get that back to us and to the board. Okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.